The story I tell is about my actual experience when I had the injection. When I've had things done before, and I had hand operated on, and I've had things removed from my skin, the injection is unpleasant. And if I can digress a little, when I came here to have that done, I had the assessment we went through, and they sort of asked me to lie down and put a towel over my face and left a little area for the eye. And I was saying to the nurse, have they done the anaesthetic, or is he going to do the anaesthetic? And she says, oh, yes. And I said, are you sure he's done the anaesthetic? Because I hadn't felt a thing. And she says, yes, he's done the anaesthetic. So I left it another moment, and I must have been a bit nervous, because I said, are you sure he's injected it and it's anaesthetised? She says, well, can you feel anything? I said, no. She says, well, he's already done the second cut. I said, right, okay, carry on, sorry. But it was such a smooth and such a painless process. You know, the little reservations I'd had before were gone. You know, I could have done a little song and dance, but it was better to die still while it carried on, I thought. I paint as a hobby, and I'm part of an art group. And I asked someone that was at the art group, who is a consultant, and I said, how do you find somebody in the private sector? He said, well, the thing I would do is I would look. He says, I could check them out for you. He says, but the best thing to do is look at them and look at their CV and see the sort of places they've worked. And if they've worked in the big national health hospitals, then you're a pretty safe bet that they're pretty good. And I looked at a couple of places, and then when I went through the CV of Dr. I've got to get this right now, Dr. Opostolos, he'd worked at Christie's and he'd worked at all sorts of places, and I thought, well, that's a pretty good CV. So I thought, right then, you know, take the plunge, ring, make an appointment, and come through and have a look. And that's what I did. I didn't put off having it done. I lived with it for a while until it started. I think when it started to get a little larger and more noticeable, and I checked with my wife. I said, you know, is this becoming more noticeable? She said, well, probably to you. She says more so than me, but yes, it is. And as it was starting to get larger, I thought, to be honest, there's an element of there where you say, well, if you let it get larger and larger, then when it's done, it's a bigger job to have done. So whilst I might have prevaricated for several months, when I started to get noticeable, I moved on it reasonably quickly. I think if you're particularly nervous about something, the longer you wait, and the waiting's the worst part, isn't it, than when you get on with something. I mean, everybody must be just a little bit on edge about any procedure they're having done, and I was, but I mean, yeah, I didn't recognise it as something that was major, but it would have been pretty disastrous if the whole thing had gone wrong, and I'd have had a scar that was worse than the cyst I had in the first place. But no, I couldn't be more pleased with the whole thing. I think if you came in and you were treated in a way that, you know, it was, I don't say minimised is perhaps the wrong word, but trivialised, I think you would be quite offended by it. You know, I'd be thinking, well, you know, it might be trivial to you, but why have I bothered coming then in the first place? No, it's important to the individual. That's the essence of any customer satisfaction, isn't it? Your customers' feelings about it are very, very important. And coming here today, I'm pleased to come here today because my experience was very good, and I'm happy to share that with others because other people will be having the same sorts of reservations that I had about how do I find somebody that's good. I would certainly recommend here, if I had a friend or someone that asked me about it to have something done, I would say, see whether UKSKIN can help. The healing process, well, I had no discomfort after the operation, or procedure, I suppose it is. And I kept the dressing in place and got a list of instructions about what to do. Very straightforward, which I followed to the letter. I was just a little concerned that I could see these, after about a week, I could see the stitches, 3 stitches that were puckered up. And I thought, well, will they go down? Will that go? And of course I know from previous experiences that that's part of the process. But a very straightforward process. I did ring because I got impatient after about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and thought, should the stitches be coming out now? Got a pair of tweezers and gave them a little pull, and they didn't move, so I left them alone. And I rang through and asked, and I got a message back pretty promptly to say they start coming out about 5 weeks. They're dissolving stitches and they'll come out in about 5 weeks. And that's what they did. I might have given them a little tweeze to help, but very, very straightforward, no discomfort with it at all. And the puckering that you have when they pull the skin together with the stitches just went, disseminated, it's just gone.